Liverpool's transfer window activity has once again captured the headlines as developments surrounding Alexander Isak have taken a dramatic turn that could finally bring the Swedish forward closer to his long-desired move to Anfield. With the summer transfer deadline now looming large and only a few days remaining before the window slams shut, Liverpool find themselves under increasing pressure to complete any potential deals. However, they may have been handed a significant boost in their pursuit of the 25-year-old striker, who is said to be desperate to join the Reds and is even pushing for an exit from Newcastle United. The timing of the saga adds further intrigue, with Liverpool preparing for a crucial Premier League clash against Arsenal this weekend, while negotiations behind the scenes continue to dominate headlines and speculation. Reports suggest that Isak's future must be resolved before he links up with the Sweden national team for their upcoming World Cup qualifiers, though uncertainty remains over whether he will still be a Newcastle player by the transfer deadline on Monday evening. The saga has taken another twist, with Newcastle finally securing an agreement to sign Nick Woltemade from Stuttgart in a deal worth around £70 million, potentially opening the door for Isak to leave. Woltemade, a talented 23-year-old forward who impressed with Germany at the Under-21 European Championship and netted 17 goals in the Bundesliga last season, has long been linked with Bayern Munich, but Newcastle appear to have won the race for his signature. This acquisition not only breaks their transfer record but also strengthens the likelihood of Isak being allowed to depart, particularly as he has been refusing to play after Newcastle blocked his dream move to Liverpool earlier in the summer. For Newcastle, the arrival of Woltemade is seen as a statement signing after a frustrating transfer window that saw them miss out on several top targets, including Hugo Ekitike, Benjamin Sesko, and Brian Mbeumo. The move also mirrors Isak's own record-breaking arrival in 2022, when he was signed for £63 million, though the Swede now appears determined to move on. Isak himself has grown increasingly vocal in recent weeks, breaking his silence with a statement accusing Newcastle of breaking promises and failing to honor agreements made when he joined. He insisted that he had stayed quiet for too long while others pushed narratives that did not reflect the reality of what was said and agreed privately. The Swedish striker reaffirmed his desire to move on, with Liverpool his clear preference. Meanwhile, he has been named in Sweden's squad for qualifiers against Slovenia and Kosovo and has even been asked by the Swedish FA to take part in media duties, which could add further fuel to the ongoing speculation. Beyond Isak, Liverpool's transfer business may also involve defensive reinforcements, with Crystal Palace's Mark Guehi continuing to attract strong interest from Anfield. Guehi, who is entering the final year of his contract at Selhurst Park, has been reluctant to sign an extension, leaving Palace in a difficult position where they must decide whether to cash in now or risk losing him for free next summer. Liverpool, having already held talks earlier in August, remain keen on adding the England international to strengthen their backline alongside Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahima Konate. Negotiations had previously stalled over valuation, with Palace demanding £45 million and Liverpool unwilling to go beyond £35 million, but with Palace's successful European qualifier now behind them, discussions are expected to reignite. Guehi himself is said to be open to the move, and transfer insiders including Fabrizio Romano and Nicolo Shearer have reported that Liverpool are preparing a fresh bid, with an agreement in principle already close. As for Isak, the growing expectation is that Newcastle's acquisition of Woltemade could have major ramifications for his future. Several outlets suggest that this deal is the clearest indication yet that the Magpies are prepared to sanction the Swede's departure, though they remain firm on their valuation, which stands at an eye-watering £150 million. Liverpool are not expected to meet that figure, with reports claiming they would not even go as high as £130 million, making negotiations complicated. Nonetheless, many believe Newcastle's stance may soften in the final days of the window, particularly as they now have a ready-made replacement and do not want to risk an unsettled player creating ongoing disruption. Former Liverpool defender Jamie Carragher has also weighed in, urging Newcastle to sell Isak sooner rather than later, drawing comparisons to Fernando Torres' situation at Liverpool in 2010. Torres stayed despite wanting to leave, only to be sold in January 2011 after a difficult few months that strained the club. Carragher argued that Newcastle risk facing a similar problem with Isak if they keep him against his will, describing it as a cloud hanging over the club that Eddie Howe will be forced to deal with constantly in press conferences and within the dressing room. Meanwhile, uncertainty continues to swirl around Isak's immediate future at Newcastle. Reports suggest he has been training separately from the first team after making it clear he does not intend to play for the club again, though former England defender Joleon Lescott has cautioned against assuming the striker is solely refusing to train, pointing out that sometimes clubs themselves instruct players to train away from the squad. Isak's camp remains confident that a resolution will be found, with Liverpool watching closely and preparing a fresh approach as the clock ticks down. Alongside these major developments, Liverpool are also trimming their squad, with Kostas Tsimikas tipped to leave Anfield before the deadline, likely joining as Roma on loan with an option to buy. The left-back has fallen down the pecking order behind Andy Robertson and summer signing Milos Kerkez, making his exit almost inevitable. With just days left in the window, Liverpool's transfer strategy is balancing on a knife edge. The focus remains firmly on Alexander Isak, whose desire to move has become impossible to ignore, and Mark Guehi, who could be the defensive addition to help Arne Slot build a squad capable of challenging for both the Premier League title and another European crown. The coming hours could prove decisive, as Newcastle's big money signing of Walter Maid shifts the dynamics of the Isak saga and Liverpool prepare what could be their final moves in a dramatic summer of speculation and negotiations. Alexander Isak's potential move to Liverpool has been one of the most captivating storylines of this transfer window, not only because of the player's individual quality but also because of how his journey at Newcastle United and the Reds' long-running search for a new marquee forward have intertwined at the perfect moment. To truly understand why this saga has escalated in such dramatic fashion, it is worth looking back at the context of Isak's arrival in English football and Liverpool's transfer strategy over the past few years, which together explain why the striker's determination to engineer a move to Anfield has become one of the defining themes of the summer. When Newcastle signed Isak from Real Sociedad in the summer of 2022 for a club record £63 million fee, the move was seen as a statement of intent by the newly ambitious Magpies under their Saudi-backed ownership. Isak had been one of the most exciting young forwards in European football, having starred in La Liga with his technical ability, pace, and composure in front of goal. He had also built a reputation on the international stage with Sweden, where his performances in Euro 2020 made him one of the most talked about young attackers in Europe. At Newcastle, he was expected to spearhead a new era and lead the club into European contention. His debut season brought flashes of brilliance, with crucial goals and dazzling displays, but injuries and inconsistency meant he did not always hit the heights expected of a record signing. Still, he remained a player with enormous potential, and Eddie Howe and the Newcastle hierarchy publicly backed him as the man to take them forward. But beneath the surface, frustrations were already growing. Sources close to Isak have long suggested that promises were made about the club's ambition, recruitment, and his role in the project, promises that he now claims were not kept. This simmering discontent came to the fore in July when Isak privately informed Newcastle of his desire to move on, with Liverpool emerging as his preferred destination. For the Swede, the appeal of Anfield is obvious: a global powerhouse club, a chance to play under Arne Slot in a system built around fluid attacking football, and the opportunity to challenge for the Premier League title and Champions League every season. At 25, he sees this as the moment to take the next step in his career, and the idea of forming part of Liverpool's next attacking dynasty excites him greatly. Liverpool's side of the story is just as fascinating. Since the departure of Sadio Mane in 2022 and the gradual winding down of Roberto Firmino's role, the Reds have been in a period of transition in their forward line. Mohamed Salah has remained the talisman, but questions about his long-term future have only grown, particularly with constant links to Saudi clubs. Darwin Núñez arrived in 2022 for a fee that could rise to £85 million. But despite flashes of brilliance, the Uruguayan has struggled with consistency, finishing, and fitting seamlessly into Liverpool's tactical system. Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota have been excellent options when fit, but both have had injury issues, leaving Liverpool searching for a player who can be both a reliable goalscorer and a consistent performer on the biggest stage. In that sense, Isak fits the profile almost perfectly. He is tall, quick, technically gifted, comfortable both centrally and drifting wide, and has the ability to finish with either foot. He can lead the line but also contribute to the team's pressing game, making him a dream fit for slots high-intensity football. Liverpool have admired him since his Real Sociedad days, but his price tag was always considered prohibitive. Now, however, the situation has shifted. With Newcastle's financial restrictions under the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules, the Magpies are under more pressure to balance their books, especially after a frustrating summer of missed transfer targets. Their record signing of Nick Woltemade from Stuttgart for £70 million could serve as the turning point that makes Isak's departure a necessity rather than a choice. Still, Newcastle have not made things easy. They are publicly sticking to their valuation of £150 million, a figure Liverpool are extremely unlikely to pay. Even £130 million is said to be too much for the Reds' hierarchy, who pride themselves on not overpaying even for top targets. Yet the clock is ticking, and as the deadline approaches, the reality is that unsettled players often force clubs into compromises. Isak's refusal to play, his separate training sessions, and his public statements accusing Newcastle of breaking promises have only increased the sense of inevitability that he will not be wearing black and white much longer. Liverpool's pursuit of Isak also comes against the backdrop of their broader squad rebuild. Since the arrival of Arne Slot, the club have already been aggressive in reshaping the team. New signings such as Hugo Ekitike, Florian Wirtz, and Jeremy Frimpong have added quality and depth, while Milos Kerkez has strengthened the left-back position. But the club remain determined to bring in one more world-class forward, and Isak represents not just a signing for now but a statement for the future. Alongside that, Liverpool are also pushing to add defensive reinforcements, with Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace identified as the prime candidate to join Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahima Konate at the heart of the defense. Guehi, like Isak, is open to the move, and Palace's need to sell due to his contract situation makes it increasingly likely that he too could end up at Anfield before the deadline. The parallels to past Liverpool transfer sagas are hard to ignore. Supporters recall how Fernando Torres' desire to leave in 2010 led to an awkward half-season before he was eventually sold to Chelsea in January 2011, with Jamie Carragher himself recalling how disruptive that situation was behind the scenes. Carragher has urged Newcastle not to repeat Liverpool's mistake, warning that keeping a player against his will only creates negativity and distraction. If Newcastle allow Isak to leave now, they can at least begin their new chapter with Woltemade and perhaps another striker, such as Yoane Wissa, who remains a target. For Liverpool fans, the excitement is building. Isak would not just be another signing, he would be the marquee forward that many feel has been missing since the peak years of Salah, Mane, and Firmino. His arrival could herald a new attacking era, one that could drive the club toward their long-term goal of winning a record 21st league title and adding another European Cup to their collection. With time running out in the transfer window, the stage is set for one of the most dramatic finales in recent memory, and the outcome could shape not only Liverpool's immediate future but also Newcastle's entire trajectory as they seek to establish themselves among England's elite.